streaming. Okay,
They
Sonja,
started the
we're
streaming.
starting. Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Sonia.
Hello. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi.
Hi, hi.
Okay.
Very good. I'm seeing people putting in their names in the chat. Thank you very much. As I said, it's important for record. Just like if we were having an in-person meeting, we need to know who is in attendance. Yeah. Thank you very much.
To ask questions.
Right. So at this point, we will begin today's PDC Commission meeting, and we will begin with the agenda. Let's see what's the agenda for today. Could you put up the agenda, please? Good to see you all. So just hold on, we're just switching out to the agenda. So there's clarity in what we hope to cover. Okay, so this is actually the, we're going to begin, and just now, Carolina, this is the report for, so I'm just going to take you back. Carolina, I'll share the agenda. Yeah, yes, let's share the agenda, yeah? This is the report. Let's share the agenda first, yeah? Okay, so this is the agenda for today's session. You will see the report that I will present the report. And within the report, even though we have 1 and 2 separate, I've embedded the PDC Fed Forum's feedback within the PDC's chair's report, just so it will make it easier for managing the content. We're going to talk a little bit about the PDC resource library that we're hoping to set up. And of course, something that's very interesting for many of you, some proposals that we had, some ideas on the development levels for federations. And finally, we want to use most of the time really to hear from you to discuss matters that you may seem to be, that you see to be important and you think should be raised within this forum so that we could find a way to address. Yeah, so that is what today's session should look like. Today, again, we scheduled for 2 hours, but this, of course, on the face of it will barely, I think, be within 1 in terms of what we want to share with you. Of course, anything else would just be discussion, okay? So from this point, I am going to stop sharing, and I'll tell Carolina, go ahead and share the PDC chair report. Thank you very much. Perfect. Good. So we move to what we're hoping to cover in this report. So even within this, you would see one of the key activities, of course, is the funding side of the PDC's operations. We're going to take a look at the collaboration efforts between commissions, continents, and even with the PDC. We're going to just very briefly share with you an initiative that we started earlier this year, looking at developing a Federation Management Handbook. We're going to take a look at social media report. Carolina, who is in charge of this, has been leading that effort, will take you through that segment. And as I said in the agenda, I'm going to give you some brief feedback on the Federation Forum's initiative that we conducted mainly in July to August this year. And of course, we have a couple other initiatives that we're thinking about in the PDC that we want to just share with you. Okay, so that's how my report is going to be structured. So we move on to the funding activities. So here, of course, we're looking at federations. And you would see from here that to date, well, the budget, you would have seen that FIDE would have revised its overall budget to $1 million for 2020 as a result of the pandemic. Federations were allocated $5,000 on average US dollars for use for development activities, and we had specific guidelines given the constraints that COVID brought on. So from here, you would see that Americas led the charge in terms of the number of federations who took advantage of that funding, followed by Africa. Again, if we had looked at 2019, it's typically these were the first two, because of course they have many in terms of levels 3, 4, 5 federations. And then of course it's followed by Asia, and last of all, Europe. Yeah, so we move on to actually look at who are the federations who access this funding or was approved for funding. So you see we've done this by continent. And again, this kind of information you would see when we do the discussion on the resource library and so on. We do have information on the FIDE, PDC's website, where we actually list those countries that would have accessed funding. This is important for transparency purposes, so people know who would have accessed. So this is important for the continents, it's important for commissions and so on. So you see who has accessed the funding. We had quite a few new names, particularly in America, because we had new federations like St. Kitts and Nevis and St. Lucia came to the table in 2020. And of course in Asia, some people who didn't were able to access, and some of the old names, as well as Europe, we had a couple new names. So this is how we manage all the data that comes into us. So everything that we do, we manage our data because we think it's important for us to have so we could share. As we move on now to continents, sorry, before federations, this is how, so now when federations ask us for funding, one of the things we make sure that they tell us is how will you spend the funds? Now I know sometimes things happen and so on, and funds may not be used as initially intended in the main, but what federations have been doing with us is that they've come into us if they've needed to change or amend somewhat, and just making sure we give them their no objection, because what we're looking at is to make sure it's aligned to FIDE priorities, and that funds are not just spent like on administrative or other kinds of things that are not aligned to FIDE's priorities. So that's why we ask those questions, and when you report in the end, we look at it to make sure that the activities were indeed aligned to FIDE's priorities. No, you go ahead thing. So we had, go back, right. So this is the allocation. You would have seen still people, because we had the switch from over the board to online, we had quite a bit of persons still trying to do online events. So that is like more than 20%, as you see, of what the total amount of funding that was available. That's in principle. And what we found, which was very nice to see, is that a lot of federations started to use their funds to develop their players. They know the Olympiad didn't take place in 2020, that they're hoping to do it in 2021. So some people have already started to build their players' capacity. So we like that. We like seeing that trend, as well as seeing the focus on capacity building. If you take a look at it here, in terms of arbiters, is seminars, trainers, IO, those kinds of seminars, again, next in line in terms of usage of funds. So this is, and don't worry guys, and at the end, of course, all PDC's reports, we have a report section in PDC on the website. So don't worry, you'll get all the data. It's going to be there. All right, so don't worry about it. Full transparency, you get it, so people have a sense of how this works. So we move from federations onto continents. Right, so if you look at now at the continents, right, so the continents is a little bit different in terms of use of funds. Not in use of funds, in terms of the allocation of funds. So in this case, you see Europe having the lion's share of funding, but it is important, as I said, we put in the note before, that though Europe traditionally is normally the last in terms of the least, because normally they have other alternatives for funding, but the European funding this year included a big project that they're doing with FIDE to help develop chess in education. Many of you would have got surveys and so on if you manage a federation, looking at to try and gather data in terms of chess in schools and chess in education activity. So that really, that looks big, but really 40,000 of that, you see, is significant, is linked to the project with FIDE. So I would say if you took that out, it would have just been much, much less and maybe more aligned to what the Americas number is. We have Asia. Asia, again, really using the opportunity, and they've done a lot of events in terms of online championships as well as seminars. Asia did quite a bit because they manage a few regions. And so various regions came into us with seminars. So that's why you see that lion's share going to Asia, and then followed by Africa, and then America. In the main, I want to speak to America. America, again, used a lot of their funding for capacity building type. You know, you see a lot more seminars and so on. Those who participate in the zonal council will see a breakdown by continent. And then you will get, everybody will get access to that presentation after. But I just wanted to note, Africa had some unique circumstances in that they had to deal with a lot of past obligations, and FIDE, showing their commitment, did assist Africa, even though they had one or two other, you know, they had an event or so, but they had some issues that they need to deal with. And together, since we want to move forward with almost a clean slate, we assisted Africa. So this is the breakdown by continents. Yeah, all of this eventually would be updated to the website. It's not updated now. But what you will have is up to September's data on the website under funding application. These same kinds of graphs and charts. Okay, so again, full transparency. So we move on, right? So we felt it was important to highlight so FIDE made a conscious effort in 2020 to drive collaboration amongst its various arms. So whether it's amongst commissions with continents, etc., and a lot of it kind of brokered by the PDC, because the PDC is the funding body. So in some cases, we helped put commissions together with continents where we saw that there was a need to be met, or a product that the commissions wanted to roll out. So we tried to put those two parties together. So some of the examples, of course, is through WARM. WARM had a great year in terms of moving, in terms of collaborating, in terms of what they did with ECU, with Asian Chess Federation and CCA, in particular as it relates to activities. So they were able to leverage some of the continent's funding to help deliver on their mandate. So you see what they did with ECU. Of course, ECU, I know the WARM chair, she's also part of that organization, was able to get really some interesting activities up, particularly for junior girls under 20. All three actually worked on youth programs for females. So that was very heartening to see for WARM, that they were able, and of course, all my hats off to the continents for accepting these proposals and running with it. In terms of Arbiter Commission, we've been working, this is the PDC, directly with the Arbiters Commission, because it's important that many times arbiters do their training, they get their titles, but they don't do work to try and keep their skills current. Things change, rules change, and so on. So Arbiter Commission has been working on various programs and workshops to help build and develop the skill set to make them more relevant, of arbiters, to make them more relevant for what we are doing today. So we've been working with the Arbiter Commission, again, in terms of looking at the data. A lot of what we're trying to do is data driven. So we know, for example, which federations are we going to target? Of course, we're working with Arbiters Commission for certain things. For example, if you're seeing ratios that are low between players and arbiters, those are the kinds of federations that, you know, we encourage arbiters to reach out to see if they could try and up that ratio. We also did some initial collaboration with trainers. They had some various approaches, and of course you would look at it when they have their meeting as well for training programs at different levels. So they're looking at how it is they can roll this out to federations, what's the cost structure. So this is where we come in. This is why it's important to collaborate, because we have some information on federations that they may not have. And by sharing, you know what may be the best kind of option and proposal. Of course, in ethics, my friend Francois is here with us. In the zonal council, we're going to collaborate on a good governance workshop, because we also feel that in all that these 195 federations, many times we face a lot of challenges, and a lot of it we've seen, and he's seen in his role, are related to governance, that we may not understand what are some of the important underlying principles and so on. So we're hoping to address it in the zonal council. Of course, all of that information would be made available online post the session, not pre. And of course, with the continents, it's important that we understand their plans. So we would have had discussions before they even rolled out with ECU, CCA, ACF, and various plans that they wanted to roll off. Of course, ACC, they did send in their plans, in all honesty, at the beginning of 2020, but we didn't have any further discussions on it. So I wanted to show you that this is the kind of work, it's not just about federations and so on, it's also intra-FIDE, right? In terms of the kinds of discussions and work that is being held. As we move on. Right, so here, I'm just going to go very briefly on this, because again, this would be addressed in the zonal council by Shapiso. So first of all, I want to say a big hats off to Shapiso Lopang and Melinda Pilintri, because this, my friends, is what we've been working on for many, many months in terms of giving federations a resource tool that they could work with to manage their federation. Right? This took a lot of effort. So you see the objective. We found that, you know, and you know how things work, people who manage a federation, you come in new and you have nothing. You work with nothing, you are expected to perform with nothing. So we're saying, you know what, let's try and give them, I mean, it's not all encompassing, but we thought it had some key elements, many key elements that we think would help. And we said, with this Federation Management Handbook, the intention, it's to focus on the management of the federations, how you could build your chess base. We had some people who opined on that, and I thank Hal for some also providing some input in terms of that section. What are some of the ideas? Because some people expressed that they wanted to find out how else could they try and build their base. There's some ideas there. And you see here now, guys, this is all still draft there, but I'm just showing you. No, go on, Carolina, you're good, right? Right, so you see here, this is what a table of contents would look like. So it's to show that we do already have almost like 85%, 90% document already, where we would have information. These are the kinds of things. So you have the chess development side of it, development of the sport, as well as managing the federation. You know, management skills, making decisions, managing the environment, managing your resources. So these are just some things that we thought would be useful. This is not all, this is just the first page of the table of contents. It goes on a little bit more on the end. They even have, you would see links in this book to like the FIDE charter, to the FIDE handbook, to the PDC website. So those will be embedded links in this particular handbook. Yeah, so hopefully the intent is that whatever you need, you could be able to reference very easily while still being within the handbook. All right, we move on. Just to say in terms of where we are with this. So here, this was the approach that we would have prepared in the initial draft, which has been done. We had sent this to a few federation presidents or officials by continent. So each continent we said, so we got somebody from Americas, from Europe, from Asia, from Africa to give us some feedback on this, which we incorporated into the revised draft. review by others. So this is where we at now. It's already set now to the communications team, because the communications has to give us the sign off on the look and feel, and they okay with the content. Of course, management board will have to give the final sign off, legal, that kind of thing, before we come up with the final draft. I have here design of publication. That's happening. That will happen as well in the third bullet, because communications is going to help us with the design. And finally, we have the official publication. So this is the approach that we're using for the handbook. We didn't think that we knew everything. The good thing with PDC is that we do have members from many different continents. So that's why we were able to use some of that knowledge and expertise as well in the development of the core document before farming it out to others. So at this point, I will stop and find out if there are any questions based on what we've said so far, because I did say after every segment. So before I move on, and you just keep on hearing from me, let me know if there are any questions. We good? There's such clarity. Let me hear.
Yeah, actually, I mean, as a report, it's good. What I'm going to suggest is, with this, pandemic period, I mean, as a development commission, so I think that we can do something more as, instant supports. For example, in our countries, it has become a big problem that, due to this pandemic situation, there are no coaching, there are no arbitrating, because there are very less tournaments. Because, if you see how FIDE published their number of players, Sri Lanka now in 15th place. So we have a lot of players, right? So we have developed that. But unfortunately, because of this situation, we can't have physical tournaments. So then, the professional arbiters are having problems, as well as the coaches. So as federation, we did some support to them. We gave some loans, we gave some small grants like that. So this is not only for Sri Lanka. This has happened to most of the developing countries where the people are doing chess as professional. Most of them are now stopping the game and going out of chess. So that will affect the game totally. So as a development commission, so if you can think of this, it's a great thing. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Loxman. I just want to defer any response on that, because you remember at the end of this particular report, we're going to look at the Fed forum's feedback. Some of what you're saying is in that. So is it okay for me to just wait till we reach that and we'll address it? Is that okay?
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Sonja, Mr. Alan Herbert had the
Yes, sure, Alan, go ahead.
chance to participate.
Sure. Alan?
Hi, Sandra. Yeah, Sandra, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Yeah. Can you just go back to the slide with the distribution of the allocations for federations? There was just one thing on there. I wasn't sure what it was.
Carolina, just go back.
Sorry, this one or the
yeah, this one. This one.
Yes.
Yeah. Sandra, what would be Chess Academy / Club Incorporation?
Okay, so this is really what happened in where you have, right. So this here is if people wanted, this was allocation for some people wanted to do some assistance with clubs. So for example, we had a federation in Asia who said, here now, we want to help develop our clubs by building capacity with clubs. We just allocated that there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. No,
so,
because
like,
the word incorporation.
Clubs. Yeah. So we are helping our membership develop.
Right. So what was actually most confusing to me was the word incorporation, because when I see that,
this was
I'm thinking you're paying.
This was 2019.
You're paying legal fees.
Yeah. Don't worry about that.
No, No, usually when I see that, and I think of legal fees paid to legally
Oh,
incorporate
no,
and
no, no,
set
that's
up.
So maybe that's a
Okay.
misnomer.
So
We could perhaps look at that, right?
right. I was going to suggest you
Yes,
you could put
that's not a
support.
problem. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Might be right. So the incorporation is what threw me off track.
Yeah. It's just to make sure it's really club development. That's really the best word. Yeah.
So one more thing. I have seen here that you have supported for this FIDE subscriptions. Actually, I know.
All right, so let me tell you that is not the main thing. What we have done in some cases, because you know that we don't pay you funds to pay back FIDE, but what we've done.
Just wait, my question is not regarding Sri Lanka. I know that, there's one federation struggling to nearby federation, Bhutan. So I actually send several mails on behalf of them to FIDE as well, because they have a period that they were not active.
Yeah, but
still
here we wouldn't. I just want to stop you here. We won't discuss that here. We'll do it at other development matters. Is that okay?
Okay.
Thanks very much. But don't worry, we've noted. Don't worry, it's going to be raised. It's in a bullet point. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
But thanks for paying attention. Okay, so are there any more questions?
But Sandra, I think you were about to make a point when Lakshman came back in about FIDE subscription.
Yeah, that's a good point. So,
yeah.
Right, thanks for that. So what we're saying is that FIDE does not pay itself. What we've done in the past, that if federations have like a lower level of outstanding arrears, instead of them waiting to pay us and pay them back, we would have deducted. Because we would have ascertained, okay, this is not material, but to make sure we paid, we deducted from the 5,000 before sending. But as a rule, FIDE doesn't do that. It's just for federations who have low values of arrears. Yeah? But that is not the mean. We have some people who have other things, but again, what we did is that we kept these themes, these topics, these areas, because that's what we did in 2019, and we wanted to make sure we compared like with like, yeah? So we kept that. Any other questions? Could we move on? Yeah? Carolina, you want to continue? One more. Right. So Carolina will take this part. Carolina.
Okay. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Okay. This year, PDC started a project about social media. We want to have a channel in which we can inform the community about PDC activities and other topics. Okay. First, we have to determine the target audience, the objectives, the resources, which media channels we will use, and the periodicity of the publications. About target audience, well, our main target audience are federation, continents, and association which receive a development fund. And of course, the person who are related with this institution, like players, coach, arbiters, and so on. Well, before this, okay. The objective I will explain later. About the resource, PDC doesn't have a budget for community manager, so right. I am in charge of this area. I am not community manager, but I am happy to be in charge of the project because I like it. Once you define the resources, you can define how many social media channels do you want to have, and the periodicity, because if you don't have many budget, it's good to have only one media channel, because the important is to update continuously the channel. We determine a periodicity of 1 to 3 publications per week. So it's very available for us to do that. Is if you have a budget for a community manager, of course you can have different media channels and public more frequently, but in our case, we choose 2 social media channels. The main channel is Facebook, and as a complement, the YouTube channel. Okay, the objective of Facebook is to have a platform for PDC information. The Commission can inform its target audience in a friendly way, not so official. Maybe for more official information, you can add to the website. As I told you, is our main PDC channel, social media channel. YouTube is a complement of Facebook page, because we start YouTube channel for videos about, for example, the FIDE forums, about our meetings, or in this case, this meeting, for example. The idea is that people can reach that kind of videos very easy. But it's not our main channel. It's more like a complement. Okay, with the social media, well, with Facebook, we have 3 specific objectives. The first one is report PDC activities. The second one is report federation or continental activities. And the third one is public about topics related with the PDC functions or activities. Okay, those are examples about the first one, the PDC information. For example, in the first one, you can see, okay, what is PDC for? What are our primary objectives? What are our initiatives? And so on. The second one, okay, we relate the FIDE information with PDC information. For example, how many members FIDE has, and which PDC member are in each continent. And for example, in the third one is about Continental Fund, how many confederations FIDE has, and that each confederation has access to a continent or development fund. Okay, those are examples about PDC reports. The first one that we have last September. And those 2 are about a federation, well, the development fund on federation and continents. We inform about our meetings, for example, our team meetings and meetings with another commission, in this case, the Arbiter Commission. Also, we have PDC news, for example. This is a news that our member, Luis Perez Carrillo, was appointed like a member of the Olympic Committee of Colombia, which of course we congratulate Luis for this assignation. This is a news about that the request for funding. We finished to receive them. last October, I think.
This,
November.
yeah, and not no, October, but November. We did the last bit in November, yeah.
So those are examples about PDC news. Okay, the second objective is inform about activities of federations relate with the development fund or work support for with the development fund. For example, this information of Paraguayan Chess Federation. Okay, in this area we have a few information actually. So we invite you to send us more news, more reports about your activities, because that helps us to inform through our Facebook channel. Okay, those are examples about Continental activities. For example, activities from ECU, from Asian Chess Federation. We public a lot about ECU because people send us a lot of information, so we appreciate that. But if you as Continental members or members of a Continental Confederation want to send us information about your activities, so we appreciate that too. Okay, the third objective is about inform federations about topics such as administrations, governance, FIDE, and federation structure. Example, well, those are examples about how the federations can request for the development fund, the steps, some tips, because with the PDC forum, we realized that not many federations has or know about, well, some federations even didn't know about the development fund.
Yes.
And some of them didn't know about how to request that fund. So we inform federation about its steps for request the fund. Okay, this is information about Appendix B, that is one of the documents that the federation has to present. For example, how to do a SMART objective, what is a deliverable,
Deliverable, yeah.
And how to do a budget, for example. So it's a support in order that they can present that kind of documents in a better way. This is information about KPIs. What is a KPIs? 3 reasons why you should use them, and the categories, for example. And now we are public about the FIDE charter. For example, about General Assembly, about the commissions, and now, well, more recently, about the absolute commissions and its relation with good governance, for example. That is a thing or a topic that we made a presentation in the next zonal council. So those are the new topics that we are public about. Okay. Still, next year, we hope to keep the page updated, increase followers. So we invite you to follow the Facebook page. Publish more about federation and continental activities. So again, we invite you to send us news or reports about your activities. And publish more information or educational content. like the FIDE charter or the other topics that I showed you before. So I don't know if you have any comments or questions.
Carolina, thank you very much. Any comments or questions on Carolina's segment on the social media side of the PDC?
I think not.
No?
No.
Okay, Carolina, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
this. And I hope you'll see that the kind of effort that is being put in terms of making sure that we keep information available to our stakeholders and most importantly to our federations and then by extension continents. Okay, so if you have not yet, I know many of you have started to subscribe, please subscribe to the various channels, particularly Facebook, because this is where almost weekly Carolina has some sort of post on the PDC, so it's very, very useful. So it's just another avenue for you to get information on what we're doing. So thanks again, Carolina, for your commitment to making sure that we have all this available to the wider group. Okay, so we move on. Okay, so we discussed a little bit about the PDC FED forms. Now, many of you on this call may know what this is about. Some of you may not. So I'll just briefly explain what we hope to do with this. So So what we wanted to do with the PDC FED form is just have a conversation with the federations. Very often, we found that sometimes federations didn't know what was going on. We didn't know what was going on with federations. We would have made certain assumptions about their operations and so on. And we felt, you know what, it was important for the PDC to reach out to federations so we get a better understanding of what their unique circumstances or environments were, right? So that's why we came up with the PDC FED forums, and how it operated is that we conducted virtual meetings, 60 to 90 minutes on average. One or two might have gone to the 2-hour mark, but generally that's how it was. We intend to have such a meeting at least once a year. So again, we have this exchange of ideas and discussions. It was chaired by me as the PDC chair, but the councillors, because how the PDC is structured, there's a councillor per continent. So they would have been present in that session and also provided their views. We would have had minutes. Now, these minutes were not circulated directly yet to the FED forums. What we did is that we have a summary document, and we will discuss some of those observations in this meeting. And of course, we actively monitor what it is that we see is going on with the federation. If there was something that we could do, we put it on a chart. So what we have is an actually action plan. And Carolina, I think we need to put that up, because I think I saw it up on the website. So people would see exactly what it is, each federation who came to us, what they said, what was their circumstance, and what it is, what would any ensuing action items to take place. So this is how we envisioned that this would think. We found this to be a very, very useful exercise. You would see from this summary document, we actually met with 84 federations across all continents. So you would see here each continent, which federal by zone, because we decided to do it mainly by zone. In some cases, we did do a subset based on the language, because we did want to meet federations where they were. So in some cases, we had it conducted. We had somebody kind enough to either translate to French or in Spanish or even in Russian. So we were fortunate to have these sessions across the globe who participated in these events. And the main targets were really the tier 3, the level 3 and to 5 federations. We had 1 or 2 level 2s or level 1s who wanted to participate. But in the main, the focus was levels 3, levels 4, and level 5. So this is what we did over the period of July to August. So you see, it was a pretty strenuous scheduled, but we got it done across all zones. And then we want to share with you some of the observations. And Luxman, of course, raised some of it. So we move on to the observations we derived. So as Luxman was correctly saying, what we found is that many federations were severely impacted by COVID-19. And if you looked at the federation funding, you would realize even some federations in Europe were adversely affected as well, because some of them would not normally come into us. So once they fell within a certain kind of tier and we looked at what they were doing, they were assisted. Many people saw reductions in sponsorships. Their governments were not sponsoring anymore because of the focus on health, that a lot of the resources were then channeled towards the health ministries and so on. And at that point, even then, many countries were going into their second lockdowns. So what Luxman said, of course, is just an example of what we saw when we spoke with them. The other thing that we saw is that we saw some federations still continuing to struggle with resources, staff and human resources. Many times it's just a one-man show, or secondly, somebody may be there who did not have any kind of handover or anything, that doesn't know what is required, who to contact in FIDE and so on. So these are some of the things that we saw. And this is the reason why as well, we began the Federation Management Handbook, but considering some of those discussions, we kind of tweaked some of the information in an effort to hopefully address some of these issues that were raised. We also saw that chess is still not seen as a sport in a few jurisdictions. Again, and because of that, some federations are unable to access funding, either from their sporting ministry or from the Olympic Committee. So that is important for us to note. So you see, in the past, FIDE would have reached out to federations asking, are you a member of the Olympic Committee, for example? That's important information for us to have. And we felt equally as important was to find out as if you also are affiliated, if you get any kind of support from your sports ministry, because that way we really understand what is going on in your country, what you're actually able to do, the extent and so on. So that's why, guys, data is super important. When FIDE comes to you asking for information, you need to supply, right? Because then it helps us understand what's going on. And if we need to customize or do anything, then we are in a position of an informed position, so we could make informed decisions. We also saw that, and we saw this in the funding request, that many federations are now using the time, which is like the downtime for tournament organization, to train their players. As I said before, we felt that this was a very, very good line or way to go to help develop, because many players, particularly levels 3, 4, and 5, there are no GMs. You may have 1 or 2 IMs, in some cases there are none. Yeah, so we felt that this was a really good way to skill up, or as I said, level up. People will hear me say, in terms of your players. Now, number 4, federations have challenged in managing their arrays. Now, this worked out as a good thing as well as a challenge across the board for FIDE. So we realized that a lot of federations were in arrears, and FIDE's policy is that if you are in arrears, then you can't access funding. And I could understand that. That makes sense. We're giving you money and you have not honored your obligation to us. So I think it's only fair. So what FIDE did is said, here now, let's have some sort of payment arrangement. If you take a look at the reports you would see the financial reports and so on, and for verification, you would see that FIDE did a good job in actually collecting some of these fees that were outstanding, because also it was linked in some part to the federation arrears. So federations need to find a way, and of course we need to work with FIDE, not just lift up your hands and say, oh, I am in arrears and I can't do anything. We need to find mechanisms where we could come up with some sort of arrangement, because just like any other organization, you cannot go to a bank and access services and you owe them. you must have some sort of agreed arrangement with FIDE saying, here now, we could pay this. If you pay this, and maybe if you could help me get some activity going, it could help me get additional revenue perhaps. But I am promising to pay or make efforts to pay within this defined period. So we must, as federations, because I'm a federation president as well, I understand, we must take charge of our operation and see how best we could still win the battle on the ground with our federations while not exploiting or what I'm saying, taking advantage of the goodwill that FIDE has provided. If there are any issues that you have in terms of the invoice, just like before, anybody could just go into here and I'm challenging this and so on. People have done this, okay, but many cases, the arrays are legitimate. So we need to see how best we could move, at least to make the first step in coming up with an arrangement to make it happen. And then finally, we have multiple requests for rating of tournaments. So just for people who participate in the FED forums, this was a recurring theme. QC is addressing it in their meeting now. The zonal council will address it in their meeting on Saturday. So we will see how best. Asia has done a really good job, as well as Europe, having some of these hybrid types of events, because that way, and Lakshman speak to you directly, that way, even though you can't have all over the board, you have a hybrid where you have some people in some designated area or room, which is controlled according to COVID-19 guidelines and so on, and people could still play via the computer, whatever platform it is, and you can make use of your arbiters in person. So once, for example, some countries have restrictions of 5 people in a room or 10 people, that kind of thing. So this is where these hybrid type structures could really make sense. And you could still utilize your arbiters and so on. There's nothing stopping trainers from doing online training. Of course, there may have some jurisdictions where having access to the internet may be an issue, but from what we've seen, that has not been the main issue. Even if you say, okay, let's find one area that we could do pockets of people at a time, those are some options that people could use to try and make sure that their community stays active. Of course, we also got feedback that persons are kind of fed up with being online. It's a bit much, because they're online for classes, particularly children, they're online for training, they're online for whatever else. So we understand that there's some fatigue there. So it's important that federations understand that there are some options to try and see to manage the activity for your particular federations as it relates to this current environment related to COVID. So you would see that FIDE as well has done a lot of effort in terms of having online activities. I mean, it was almost relentless from the online Olympiad. We had things supported with what the Judith Polgar did in terms of the Intercontinental. We supported Asia with many tournaments and so on. And FIDE, as you know now, is doing the World Youth and Cadets. So there are many instances in which FIDE has shown, okay, fine, we understand what's going on. We've moved some of our signature events to online, just to make sure that we keep our community running and active. So at this point, I will stop here in terms of this FED Forums segment. I don't know if there are any questions. Lakshman, I don't know if I answered your question, or if there's anything else based on what you've said.
So thank you for your answer.
Yes.
Anything can do from your side. So that's better for chess, actually, not for our country.
Say that again.
Anything you can do will be supportive for chess, not for our country.
Yes, of course. Of course. And again, it's important, Lakshman, that we keep the lines of communication open, because we need to make sure that we understand what are some of the issues, just like we did with the FED forums. As we said, we would have collected all this data, including from Sri Lanka when we had the meeting with your zone. So just to make sure, and I remember Bhutan, because Bhutan is the reason why we put the federations continue to struggle, because we know it's a one-man show, for example, and he needs a lot of help. So that's why it's important for us to have this information, because once we have the information, we know how to respond. Yeah?
Yeah, actually, well, the problem with them is that, there was time which is inactive. So, the FIDE kept them because of, they wanted the vote, right? So because of that, they owe money to FIDE, right? So now what happened is they have to pay all arrears, I don't know how they voted with arrears, right? So that's why they have a little big amount when compared to their money and, their level. So that's why I asked, how.
Right. So I think that that's a discussion that they need to have with FIDE finance team. You need to be transparent. This is what my circumstances. Let me see what it is that we could do in some sort of arrangement, because we don't want just to say, okay, FIDE help. We need to have skin in the game as federations. What are we willing to do to try and make sure that we could get in, to make sure that FIDE, because if FIDE doesn't collect its arrears, it's going to affect its sustainability. So we have to be very, very careful if we're part of this whole ecosystem to see what we can do. But we also know that some people are in some dire circumstances, but have the conversations. You have the accounts, you have the executive director who oversees development generally. So you have the FIDE treasurer. So those are these discussions. Let's not be afraid to have those discussions or communications. Yeah?
Yeah, thank you. Thinking that, having less number of countries in the zone, so we have to promote all countries there. That's why I'm talking. I'm not the zone president. There's a zone president. But still, I think these federations should come to chess.
Yes. No, in no uncertain terms. And we'll continue, as I said, we will continue to have these conversations and discussions. And I have to tell you that many federations were eventually able to access funding. So even those from Asia that you said that we had meetings with, they were able to come up with an arrangement and they got their funding to help build the activity, because we know sometimes it's with the activity that you can attract, people will be more inclined to help support or sponsor because there's an actual product that the federation has. Yeah, but we also were able to get a commitment up front. So it's very important that we have this, yeah?
Actually, I'm happy about the Maldives. Shian is doing a great job, right? So what I want is every federation should learn from people like them, right? So we are a little exceptional because even I don't get anything from government even, but still we could make this level. But it's not that big if you want, right? I mean, we can't just depend on FIDE or the government. So we, as federations, we also have certain responsibility to run it. That actually people have to realize.
Correct.
So thank you very much for your concern.
Thank you so much, Lakshman. I'm so happy that we're having that kind of dialogue, because again, what you said and what we're trying to build with federations, even in what we do as the PDC, is to build some level of responsibility and accountability. That's why we ask for the information that we ask for. That's why we just wouldn't give money if we just put, I just want funding for a tournament. That's why we want you to give us additional information. That's why we want you to report, because you have a responsibility, not just the FIDE. FIDE is one, because we're giving it to you, but to your community, to your wider society, yeah? So this is it as it relates to the Fed forums. As we come closer to my PDC chair report conclusion, we move on.
Sonia.
Yes, Carolina.
Can you see the chat, please?
Okay, yes. Thank you. And guys, just to recognize that we have the FIDE president and the FIDE executive director on the call with us, Mr. Volkovich and Mr. Bologon, welcome. Sorry about that.
Yes, hello. Just to say basically hello and welcome you all at the beginning of FIDE Congress, online FIDE Congress, first ever. It's not an easy format to participate in, but at least we are saving on travel costs and staying safe at home regarding our health. I would like to thank all of you for your contributions. Sonja, thank you. Tsipisa, thank you for things you are doing. we have been working on the assumption of very conservative budget constraints. So unfortunately couldn't help and couldn't meet all the requests and all the requirements this year. Hopefully next year will be better in terms of in terms of the size of our resources for development. But I think we did an important job in assisting many national chess federations to have their online activities ongoing, both training ones, also some tournaments, and building capacity. Well, we will see the results, of course, and we will analyze those results. But hopefully next year we will have already a more hybrid way of activities and again a higher volume of resources available for development. I believe we should continue to do what we started some time ago in terms of coordinating the development agenda in the work of your commission, PDC, with other commissions, including Educational Commission, Trainers Commission, Commission for Women Chess, and others. I think it's really important to have aligned approaches to development projects and to resolving the most crucial problems in chess. Again, thanks for everything you are doing. I will expect your report and summary of this meeting very soon to be prepared for the FIDE Council and General Assembly.
Sure. Thank you so very much, Mr. Dvorkovich.
Thank you
Victor,
very much.
do you want to? Yes.
I also said thank you very much.
Yes, of course. Victor, do you want to say anything?
Yes, sure. Do you see me?
Yes, we do.
Okay, because I cannot see myself, that's why, just to make it
That's
sure.
okay. You take your word for it.
But I do see you. Okay, you look nice. Well, just want to say a huge thanks to Sonja and team, and it's really a team because you have almost day-by-day work examining all those requests and supporting and assisting federations with many things, many questions. I think it's a huge permanent work, I must say, and it's successful because you see the results at the end of the day. Practically all federations which apply, they are and of course Continental requests, they're all satisfied, and it's the work is going smoothly. So just first to encourage you to do more things, to motivate you for further activities for the next year. And this is my personal approach, personal view of the work. We have many times this midnight talks with Sonja, since we have this time difference, but it's very operational. We have many requests when it's needed to be solved in a few days, in one day, and it's also very fast the work of the commission, of the councillors, and this I appreciate it very much. So for me as executive director, it's a pleasure to work with you. But what I want to see, let's say, for the future, where we can really improve, is to find, for example, this year we had the priorities for this online activities, and we can analyze this funding and the results of it. We can, of course, definitely we will examine the reports of the federations of the continents, how it went, because this is a completely new topic for FIDE, and really a good analysis will be required. And we have another year which I can call hybrid year. For sure, first half of the year we will be in pandemics, and second half of the year I hope it will the normal activities will restart. So I am waiting for new priorities for FIDE funding for the new year, and this I rely very much on the Commission. So thank you so much. If any questions, because of course every question we can discuss on the day by day. But if you have now questions, of course I am ready to answer. I'll be here. Thank you, Sonja.
Okay. Thank you so much, Victor, Mr. Volkovich, Kadi. Thank you so much. I don't know if there are any questions, guys, before we move on, because I know that these two gentlemen took the time to be with us today, and I know they're busy because there are other meetings going on. But if there are any questions, please use the opportunity. I see a couple of comments in the chat. Of course, I just want to say that these two guys are the reason why, as well, that we are successful, because to me, I think they have my back and my team's back in terms of doing what we need to do in terms of service for you. So I don't know if there's anything else. Is there anything else at this point?
Yes, Sanja. May I just say, I'd like to thank you personally for your leadership with this commission. And I also, what I really like about what's happened in this past year, riddled though we are with all the problems with the pandemic, we've been focusing on this capacity building and this notion of federations being sport federations, and installing this in the consciousness of chess federations, that they really are sport federations, and to grow they are going to have to perform or outperform other sport federations. So I think our federation handbook really drives this home, and it helps us become more like sporting federations and really go after the market share that we justly deserve.
Great.
So thank you, Sanja.
Thank you very much. Anything else as we move on? Because I'm still at the end. I'm near the end of my report. And, but we're going okay in terms of time, because we're taking questions in between to make sure we address it. But is there anything else, Mr.? And if there's anything during, just again, put it in the chat or so on, so we will know we could address it accordingly. Okay?
Yes. So,
yes.
yes, Sanja. If
Yes.
your colleagues will have more questions, please just send those to me. I will respond during the next few hours. I will do my best. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your support as usual. Thank you.
Yes. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Okay, so we just move on, because I just want to just finish the report, because we have some other interesting things that we want to show you. And not just listen from me on my report, but I think we've been having some fun this year. I just want to use this time very briefly to just address some of the initiatives, other initiatives that we've been looking at in PDC. It's never a dull moment in the PDC, there's always something. You would see here that we have the development of resource area, because we realize that so many people have like questions on certain aspects of the funding program, of how to do a budget, how to write objectives. I mean, different things. We felt, you know what, apart from the handbook, we're going to create a resource area on the PDC's website, where federations and anybody else could go to this resource area and get information. So for example, we're going to have, well, the presentation will be on the reports, but other more specific presentations, you're going to see, and I'll show you it just now in my next segment, how we set that up. We also are happy Chen is here, and you may have noticed in the FIDE newsletter, FIDE is embarking upon a corporate social responsibility task force. They've set that up, so that is coming a lot. We still have a lot of work to do, but I'm just saying that this is how our time is being occupied. We're also helping with the zonal council meeting, so some of you may be present in that meeting on Saturday to help with the agenda and the information, some of which the executive director shared in terms of some of the data and analysis. And the final thing that we want to make sure we have, and this again is in service to the federations, is that we want to have a fully online application process. Just like you do for like a visa application and so on online, that is what we envisage that we want to work towards. Hopefully by the end of Q1, we can have something running. If it's before, I would say yeah, but the intention is that it just makes it easier for us to send in applications. If we have to make comments, send it back to you. If we have to approve for the executive director and the treasurer, it would just make it easier that everything is online. People could reference everything that they need to very easily. We do use a lot of cloud and other kinds of services now, which is a good place to be, but we want to make it fully digital, right? And if we're trying to move forward as an institution, we want to make sure we service our stakeholders properly to make it easier for them in terms of the process. Yeah, so this is what we are working on now. And as I conclude my report, here in terms of my remarks, 2020 has been quite an interesting year, but it's also been a very, very productive year for Team PDC. I am so happy that we got the support from Mr. Volkovich and of course from Mr. Bologon in trying to beef up the resources because before I did not have 4 counselors. It was just a secretary and 2 counselors and the rest of the team. But having the counselors focusing on a particular area makes it much easier to manage and more effective. So I'm very, very happy and grateful. As many people have said, I'm very fortunate that you have people on the team who understand their roles, the part that they play, because even though you see me here as the face of the PDC, I have a whole team behind me who's making this happen. I can't do what I am doing if my team doesn't say, Sandra, we have you, right? So I want to just make sure my team who's here, please, please, thank you. The whole part about having the collaboration between continents and commissions, the FIDE president just spoke about it. It's important that we continue that because that's the way that we could get good quality type events and activities. And we still felt, and we're just putting it here, that at some point we have to work towards the development of a strategic plan for FIDE. I know we still ask federations to do their own, because if you don't see and have this vision for your federation, then all your efforts will not be sustainable. So we want to make sure we have that. FIDE does already have a mission, but we need to put it in the context of wider goals and so on. So I'm sure we will be working, helping them with an approach as PDC to help. And of course, we will continue the PDC Fed forums because we realize it's such a critical tool for us to get information and feedback. So I want to say thank you, everybody. This brings it to the end of my chair report. We now go on to a next, if there are no other questions, because I know you were asking questions before, I just want to go, and I'm looking at the time, I just want to go on to the PDC resource area, if that's okay. Yeah? Any objections? We good?
Yes, Sanja?
Khaled, tell me.
Yes, thank you. First, I want to thank you, all the commission and all the background team. I have one remark or suggestion about the resource area. About the resource area, it is already a very useful tool for federation, but I would suggest that the PDC till now has gathered enough information to set a database of models of projects. If we can build a database inside the resource area of the models of the projects, this will be a useful tool for federation to practical models to use these models to modify them or just to be inspired. And the main thing is to follow the rules of clarity and transparency while building their own projects. I think also that such a database of projects will be very useful to reduce the delays of processing the projects inside the PDC.
Okay, noted. That's fair. And I think what we want to do, Khaled, is that it would be much easier if we have an online application, because if we do it, that will have to be a manual process. So that's why, so we could do this piecemeal, and I fully take it, the resource area. And actually just give me a little time. Let's address the resource area.
Yes.
And then I will address your question. Yes, but thank you, very good contribution. Yeah. Yes. So Carolina, could we switch to the PDC's website? Okay. Perfect. So let's stay here a little bit. So guys, this is the PDC's website, right? I just want to just take you very quickly through the different things that you could find, because I realize that people don't necessarily go to the PDC's website. So Caroline, if you could just click on wherever there's a drop down, so people could see what we could find on the PDC's website. Let's start with about the PDC. Let's start with about the PDC. Click on about the PDC. Yeah, so click on that. So here you have the team, and people many times ask us about the development levels. The development levels are here in about the PDC. So here you have the team members, and in some cases we have little bios on each team member, so you know what we are. But here is where you have the development levels in alphabetical order by the current criteria. So you can easily find what development level that you find, because this is a question people ask all the time. Then we go to PDC activities. Right, so here you have, remember I told you that you're going to have data here in terms of who got funding and so on. This is where you find this. Federations approved for funding, continents approved for funding, and of course if we have any associations at the end. The PDC activities, you will also find, Carolina, just keep the drop down on PDC activities so they'll see. Keep the drop down, right. So you have the Continental drawdown. You don't need to go in PDC Fed forums. And this is where you have also PDC reports. So all of our reports are under PDC activities. So this current one will eventually be placed there, right? So you have the report from September and the one from earlier in June already on the PDC's website. Let's go to funding applications. Again, some people didn't know, but everything to access the funding is on this particular tab. All the documents, we have the process that needs, so because some people are sending information to the executive director, they're sending it to somebody else, it needs to go through a process, which is defined. We have here, you see instructions. We found that people are not reading the instructions, for example. This is how we tell you what you need to fill out, what needs to be filled out now. Here you could have the documents. If you want a separate document, or if you want the entire package, you could download the entire package in one. So everything is here on the PDC's website. We realized that people were coming into us asking for it, but what we've been doing is sending people the link to funding application. So this is where you get the details of how you need to fill out a form, what are the required fields to be completed, that kind of thing. Let's go to reports. So reports here, now in the absence of database, Khalid, we have the reports from everybody who got funding in 2019 and gave us the funding by continent. So we have here exactly what people did in terms of reports. So, because what you realize is that not all federations are created equal. They have different, the environments are different. So what they're able to do is different. And it also is reflected in the report that they share. But you will also see in many reports, we've asked people to share pictures, links, etc. Because that way it could give the reader, anybody who's going to report, an insight in terms of what they did. Yeah, so even though we don't have something marked database, we felt that this was important for transparency. Everybody who got funds from us needed to send a report, including the continents. So you would see how they use the fund, the breakdown, and to prove that if they said, okay, I had an event, where's the picture, for example? Where's the seminar? Who participated? So those kinds of corroborating types of info is found within the report is required. And many times if the report doesn't have it, we ask people to put it in. Yeah, because there's a format for the reporting. So for us, this is what we thought that people could take a look at. Okay, I'm in Africa. Let me see what some of the other Africans, they know. Even if I want to model after Europe, let's see what some of the European federations did. Because the report clearly states what it is they did, if there were any learnings from it, which is rich information. Yeah, and it's done by federation. So that is there on the reports. We go to news. As Carolina said, what we've been trying to do is profile news of federations who've received funding from the from FIDE. You also see here, let's stop a little bit. You see PDC chairs. Let's go up. So this is like, these are news from 2019. We have to update news to 2020. If you go up, you would see the PDC chairs corner. Here is where you get information, like when the executive director sent us any new guidelines and so on, we put those things there. So there's full disclosure. This is how we're operating. These are the priorities. These are the guidelines. But what we found is that people were not coming to the PDC website. So that's why we're using these kinds of opportunities to let people know it has all sorts of information. It's not perfect, but there's a lot of information here on the website. And then finally, come to the PDC Resource Library. Now this is brand new. Here, the Federation Management Handbook, keep it there, Italian, right there. It's not completed, but when it's done, that's where it will go. And it will be accompanied by an associated presentation, as well as the handbook itself. We have, let's go to planning tools. If we go to planning tools, I think we have some things already there. So go to the presentation. So here, when we did the session in Abu Dhabi, we did a presentation on basic financial planning, on human resource management. So we are putting those things there as tools so federations could access. So even though you may not have been there, the presentations are there. And the thinking is, go back, that you will also have templates, right? So if you look at planning tools, just click on planning tools. So you'll see how we're doing it. So you're going to have presentations. Some of the PDC tips that Carolina has been sharing is going to go there, as well as any templates, right? So if we say, okay, somebody has this is planning, somebody has a good strategic plan, we will put it there. That would be our database, right? So we're structuring it based on what the need is. As we move on in the PDC Resource Library, we're also going to take a look at governance. Let's go to governance. And governance is related, as you know, how you run your federation. If you click, again, we'll have a presentation. I think one is there already in terms of a mini presentation, vision, mission, values, planning, just 2 slides. So again, everything that we have and we've created, we're going to put in this resource library. So people could see how it is I could perhaps structure a strategic plan. We have a few federations who did some really good plans. So this is how we've chosen to kind of structure the resources available to the federation. And finally, in reputation and social media management, because we want you to focus on that, because FIDE is trying to focus on that. There's a presentation that the head of marketing, who is part of the PR team at FIDE, he did with us. So we've made sure we have access to information. This is very key information in this particular presentation. So in each case, it's going to be structured if there's a presentation to explain some sort of tip, so if it's easy to just reference, as well as templates. So that is where we want to go. Of course, it will take some time, because to do this takes a lot of time to do it properly, but this is what we intend to do. And of course, the last thing in the PDC Resource Library are the various links, and that has to be included because this was just done. We're going to eventually put in, under reputation management, links for PDC website and FAQs. If there were particular questions like who could access funding or those kinds of things. So all those things are already there. And in some cases where it's not there, it will be up by the end of the year. And of course, this is a dynamic area, so we will constantly be adding different themes and topics to it. But we felt let's deal with those that we felt were where we had the most questions. Now these FAQs were from 2020. So it's 2019. So you see US 20,000, for example, should be 5,000, but everything else works. Yeah. So this is the thinking, and of course, contact us. Go to contact us, Carolina. Finally. So in the contact us area, you would see who the general contact. People say, who is Fed funding? Fed funding is our darling Denara. That's who Fed funding is, okay? So if you're sending to Denara, that's who it is. PDC secretary, I used to have under that, it used to come to me, but I am now PDC chair, so there's a separate email address for me. So just so you know that we have the information on the website with the intent to be resources. It's not fully complete, but you know that a lot of work has gone into at least put some of the most, the things that people ask for most. Yeah, and that's why we said that's what we were trying to go for with this website. So even though I talked about the PDC Resource Library, I just used the opportunity to take you through what our website looks like, the kind of information, because we realized not everyone was going to the website, which is really the repository of all things PDC. Yeah, I don't know if there are any questions, but that's it as it relates to that particular segment. Are there any other questions?
Yes, so yeah, Mr. Alan Herbert has a hand raised.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Alan.
Hi, Sandra. A quick question. It only came up when you in like two pages before.
No problem.
Has there been any further decision on how to treat new federations? Remember those conversations we had early in the year?
Right. Now, I have to tell you, Alan, the good thing is that the new federations, because they got accepted in February, have received funds like St. Kitts and St. Lucia and so on. So they have already received funds. But I think the other question, that's in terms of it, I think the charter, I don't know if the charter have changed in terms of those in limbo, because remember the charter was revised earlier this year. Right, but anybody who's approved in FIDE's eyes have been able to access funding, as St. Kitts did and St. Lucia did.
Right, no, but I'm not just thinking of specific cases, but I'm thinking of the future, because there's still more countries where we have to develop federations, as you know, even within the Americas. And it's that twilight zone between when they're accepted as a provisional member and then when they're
getting access.
And then when they're accepted as a full member, what happens in that period in between?
Right.
So I wasn't sure. I know you were going to take it up.
Yes.
With the relevant persons, but I don't know if you had.
No, we haven't, and because I was looking at the revised charter, but I think, Alan, we will make. I think working with Mr. Bologan, we will have a final position on that, because it was raised, and I think the thinking was we would wait till they become accepted, was the thinking. But I understand, because we had a discussion on what some of the issues, how we could address it. So I will continue to follow up on that.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? No? Okay, so so as we're going good in terms of time, we want to use this opportunity to raise with you some time ago, and we did raise it very briefly in Abu Dhabi, but I am going to ask Theodorus and Carolina, make sure that Theodorus has access to present. He's going to share with you some ideas we have concerning the FIDE development levels, because as it is now, the development levels are still based on the top 10 players in the main in terms of their rating. So we had some ideas that we've shared, and I'm going to ask Theodorus to go into more detail, because that way we can also get additional feedback. And I will also share one additional bit of feedback that I got when I did the handbook. So Theodorus is actually the counselor for Europe on the PDC team, on Team PDC. So Theo, go ahead. Theodorus, not hearing you.
Sorry, I was mute. Sorry.
I realize that. That's okay.
I continue. I start to say that this matter of development levels concerning FIDE for many years, because currently we have a system that it was from the beginning of this program, and this system is based only in the top 5 players of each federation. So currently, the development levels that we see, and before we could see also in the FIDE development site, is based in the 5 best players by rating from each federation. But as you understand, and okay, this was noticed with many people, this is not so reliable anymore. What means 5 players with the best rating? Okay, this is only
10,
one.
yeah, I think it's 10. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's one of the main of many, one point of the many that should be counted, should be measured in order to see what is a development. Additionally, since the movements of players, it's easy in chess, I mean, from one federation to other. Also, this was what would easily, let's say, don't give the real picture of the development to one federation. They can take one grandmaster and they can change their level, and vice versa. They can lose one grandmaster. So I know that the current management, the previous, Sonja especially, is, let's say, want to change this and establish a better system to measure the development level. So in this frame, I worked in one proposal. This is only proposal that it's working, a working draft that haven't been accepted yet by FIDE, but it has some ideas how, I mean, we should do it in the near future. So first question is, let's say, and okay, of course, here could be many opinions. What we should measure, let's say, as development in one federation, what is these KPIs that we want to follow and to measure annually? And here is some main things that, in my opinion and in our opinion, we should, by sure, let's say, taking in account. One is the number of registered players. Also, you see that if you watched before one few weeks, FIDE released some statistics on this. This has to do, of course, with the mass development, how many people are playing chess in one country. And this is a very crucial field, connecting also with the chess school programs. The other point, this is one that we already have, is for that measuring the top chess is the average rating of the top 5 or 10 players. Currently are 5 is what we have already now. Of course, also it's 1 point. The other thing that FIDE and all federations, continents giving important attention nowadays is the women's chess. So this is also should be a measure, a thing to measure on the development level of one federation. And okay, we have to decide how much this will affect the general development, but this is also one important criteria. The chess tournaments, the activity in the country, in the federation, it's also very important, because you can have 1, 2, 3, 4 players or many players, but also if you don't organize tournament, you cannot give them activity, you cannot develop further. And one other issue that also we will see the next card is, let's say, the budget of each federation. So here some targets that we want to measure, some KPIs, and based in the targets we have, we say the mass development, the women's chess, the top chess, the activity, and the annual budget. The annual budget is something that we discussed before and with Sonja, because the initial idea was to use the financial level of the country, GDPI and all these things that, but this is not so clear, because you can have countries with lower financial level, like for example, Russia can have a much more level than many other officially, let's say, level than other countries. But from the other side, one country is investing much more funds in chess. So we try also to collect data from the annual budget of the federation, not exact data, but range of budgets that also show what is the financial development of each federation. So here is some criteria that I developed, and I proposed the number of registered players in comparison with the population. The number one, number two, the number of registered tournaments in FIDE in comparison with registered players. This factor, for example, show how many tournaments the players can play in their same country, and how big are tournaments and what is the variety. Average rating of the 10 top players. The 5 can become 10, so to have more, let's say, reliable results. Going now to the women's chess, there are 2 criteria that we can measure. One is the average rating of the top women players, to see also if one federation is advanced and in the women's level. And also, what is the number of the women players in comparison with the total number of federation and registered players? This is show exactly the ratio between the total players and the female players in one federation. And the annual budget as a rates level, not exact figures, that also show a lot, because it's also meaningful to support federations with lower budget, and this should be one of the criteria. Now, how this system can be formulated and calculated. In my draft, in order to make a first calculation and to have some results, I gave some a scale of points from 200 to 1,100, depending depending with this criteria. So to create a formula. Several similar systems has also FIFA or other, let's say, organizations that calculating also the country rankings, and they are running with such formulas. So according the results of this criteria, each country takes some points. And here you see, for example, citizens to players. As smaller is this criteria, then you take the more points. The same, as smaller is the players than female players. These KPIs, these indicators, index, you take more points. The same players for tournaments. Also rating top 10 according to the average rating, you take points, rating women's, and of course also according to the budget that was let's say in Italy, let's say calculated in these levels, $0 to $200,000 and so on. Of course, all this can be formulated and in different way. This is just a first approach in such system. You see the last month that FIDE published some statistics. So these statistics, they are generated automatically. And if we decide that one system like this is the right one and what exactly we have to put inside, with one computer database, one software, we can easily make calculations and every year, let's say, update this calculation and watching the results. This will create also a kind of chess country rankings that, and every year also, each federation could, let's say, see, and FIDE will see their the changes in the development status, and he will give also some motivations to federations, so their development to be better measurement. This is also, okay, just another statistics that FIDE published. I just put it here, Grandmaster per capita, showing, let's say, the federations that has more Grandmasters, or in the previous statistics, the federations that have more players, let's say, comparing their population. You see, for example, Greece, it's very high. From the other side, here, India and Russia, they have also big numbers, but India, for example, is not so big comparing with the population. Finally, this is not something that I feel, but I want to say that when we have such system, all these, let's say, KPIs, we can calculate very easily, make diagrams, make a lot of statistics, and watch each country how develop in the different, let's say, sector we want to develop. And before I close, I will show you some initial calculations just to give you an idea what is happening when you put all these elements inside. Sorry. Okay, here is an Excel file, because I do this, I did this as an experiment to see what will happen, and especially for Europe, that I know better the situation and better the federations. Of course, and there is one, let's say, table, let's say, that I have the results. Of course, this table can change depending how you will decide
Weighting.
to calculate. Okay, you can have also some weight factors, not necessarily all criteria with the same value. For example, you may decide that you don't need to have two women's criteria. You can keep one because some federations are low on this. But anyway, this is the system. The details then you can see. And for example, when I put in Europe this system, the results looks normal for me, by the meaning that, for example, without doing this, if somebody asks me which federation you think that is very developed in Europe, I would say first Poland, because Poland is developed in many areas. Let's say, okay, of course Russia, of course Georgia, because they have also a good, let's say, female teams. They have a lot of tournaments. They have good budgets. They have. One surprise, for example, could be for you. You see, is also Estonia. But if you see all the Baltic countries, and if you take all the data, how many registered players they have and what they do in all fields, you will see that they are very developed in chess. For example, the Baltic countries. So these systems give you an overview of many things, and remains to Commission and to FIDE to decide what is development. What is development? What we have today, 5 players, let's say top-rated players, is not development. Okay, one country can have 5 good players, but nothing else. So if we decide what is our targets, what motivation we want to give to federations, for example, to increase their population in chess, to increase the female chess, to increase the school chess, then we can finalize this criteria and we can make a nice formula. We can call them feeder country rankings, and every year or every 6 months, this can be updated and will show also the results of each year of each federation, how improved in this world ranking. We don't have so many times. You could speak for this in one session only, because of course there can be different ideas. I just wanted to show you an idea how, in our opinion, should change this. And of course, then the details can be discussed, which criteria could be more important, and to write the right formula and follow it.
Thank you so very much, Theodoros. Guys, you see that, as I said, never a dull moment at Team PDC. We're always trying to work on something to try and improve how we do what we do. So what Theodoros did is that he just shared some ideas that we had. Of course, we've put this forward already to FIDE management. Of course, we still await feedback, but we felt that this was a good opportunity to share with you some of what we were thinking. Because you remember, when we're doing this, is because we're doing this with you in mind. Yeah. So we will have this presentation. We will have Theodoros's presentation, my report, everything online. So people, again, feel free to contact us if there are any questions, because I know this development level discussion could get very interesting, because people will have different views, but we are very clear in what we see as development, on what are some of the criteria that we think should be part of that model. Of course, we could disagree on what weighting it will have. So I would just suggest, as Theo said, we don't have as much time, but once you take a look, again, you get a second look and so on to see what he's prepared, and you want to share it with your teams, you could come back into the PDC and say, here, now we've thought about this. Did you consider this? And I'll give an example. Kenya came into us with a suggestion. For example, let's just look at the federation itself. Does it have a website? Does it hold an AGM? So the governance type, like there's a governance index as well that they want to include, which I think makes a lot of sense, because we know that we have some of these issues within our federations. So those are other considerations as well that we could use to complement the base, the work that was done. Theo did a lot of work behind this model. So this is great, right? So thank you again, Theo. I don't know if there are any other specific questions for Theo on this, because now, you remember I said I want a little time for you all to chat with us, even though we did some chatting before. But if there's anything that you want to do with us, to have a chat with us, please use this opportunity. We're all ears, as we are always, and excited to continue to serve. So it's up to you. The floor is yours, to anybody who wants to share anything. And of course, anything that is said already so far will also be minuted, okay? So don't think that your previous comments were not right?
Yeah, I really like to thank Theodos. It's a great, suggestion, because this current system, there's nothing actually. Just count rating and give it. But as he said, there are certain ways that your chess can be developed, right? So he has taken it in consideration. Thank you. I thank him for doing such a thing. For example, in this level, earlier also I have taken. So the Bangladesh is in number 2, level 2, because they have some grandmasters who won the grandmastership in 80s and 90s, right? So,
correct.
So they are not in a level of getting support from you. And secondly, the people think that your commission is there just to get support as much.
Hello?
Next one. Did we lose him? Is it just me, or did we lose him?
Slim.
I think we lose him.
Oh, okay. What is not just because I know I have sometimes issues, so I just want to make sure that we get. So when he comes on, we will continue. Anybody else has any other comments?
Sonja, just to say,
Yes,
to
you.
comment to Luxman that indeed, because I made calculations for all continents, indeed with this system, Bangladesh is more down. I mean,
Yes, correct. Because,
This is
and I'm glad that
why
unfortunately he's not here, but he will be happy to hear that, I'm sure. Yeah. Anybody else has any other comments? I see people have been putting comments in the chat. I just want to say thank you. I'm seeing some real positive words of encouragement. You see, we have been working hard. It doesn't end, but we're all here to listen and just do what we can to service you. So I don't know if there's anything else before we wrap up, because it's 10:56. Sorry, I said 10:56. It's almost 2 hours. Let me just put it that way, because I know it's different times across the world in deference to Paul. Okay, so it's almost there. Anybody else? Or are we going to say, Clara, again, everything that we presented, this has been streamed via YouTube from what I understand. We're going to have the presentations on the website and everything else. So we try to just make sure that we give you all that we have. We hold nothing back. We share everything that we could share, because we know once we share and more people know, we all do better. Yeah, so that's the kind of philosophy that we use within the PDC. And I want to take time to personally thank every single member of my team who's on this call. And those who are not: Theodora, Stanara, Irena, Carolina, Mylinda, Shapiso, Hal. Is there anybody else who's on this call? And everybody else who's not here for different reasons, because it's different time zones. But I really want to say that, again, with the support that I get from the team, we are able to deliver, and know that we know we're not perfect, but we always strive to improve every year. So thank you for all that you all have done, and all the federations, the support that you've done to us and for us to making this possible. Yeah, so if there are no other comments and so on, we just bring it to the end of our meeting. We spot on, you see, we spot on. This is efficiency to the max. So thank you everyone for taking time out to spend with us these 2 hours today. Stay tuned. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, look at our website, give us news so we could share, because what we want is the more we share, the more people know, and we empower people to do and do well. Okay, y'all? So thanks again. And Chen, thank you. I forgot to acknowledge the treasurer, FIDE treasurer. This couldn't happen. Chen, you want to just say a few words? I am so sorry, my darling.
Thank you. Sonja, great job. Keep going.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sonja. Thank you, Sonja. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sonja.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chen. Thanks.
Bye-bye. See you.
For participating.
Bye.
Stay in touch.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
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 Oh, guys, we didn't take a picture. Could we take a picture? For who's left? Carolina. I'm so sorry.
Good.
Thank you for some of you are late and holding on with me. Thank you.
I did a picture.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so Carolina, you want
Thank
to
you
just
very
take a
much.
picture?
Okay, some of them are with
Yes,
the
that's
video
okay.
off,
We
no problem.
still have 34 out of 40, so we could do it. Yeah?
Okay, I have to take 2. Okay.
Yeah,
First,
so could we
ready?
just thank you, Kima. Good seeing you, girl.
Okay.
Sonja,
Ready?
where's stopping
Everybody's
YouTube streaming?
Yeah?
Sonja.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Streaming.
Bye.
So we'll have it. Okay. No problem. Thanks, Barry, for that. You all have a great one. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Okay. Ready?
Bye. Yeah, we'll still take a picture. Yeah, quick one.
Okay. And the second one?
Yes.